I never thought that winning a simple trip in an online contest would change my life forever. When my wife, Emily, and I received the email confirming our free stay at a luxury resort, we thought it was our species finally turning. A weekend in a secluded paradise seemed like the perfect opportunity to rest and reconnect. But what started as a lifelong dream quickly turned into a nightmare. I should have seen the signs sooner, should have felt something wasn't right. Now all I can do is tell our story and warn others to never, ever trust something that seems too good to be true, now that it is. Welcome to the channel where every ride could be your last. Here, we tell the darkest and most disturbing stories of drivers and passengers who have faced the unexplainable on the roads. If you like feeling that chill down your spine, subscribe now. Hit the bell so you don't miss any chilling stories and share them with your brave friends. Get ready, because the next race could be yours. Winning an online contest never felt real to us. In fact, when Emily and I received the "this must be a scam" email, Emily said, laughing as she looked over the email, "No one actually wins these things." I had to agree. In recent years, online travel contests and giveaways have become a common scenario for fraud. But when we started researching the company that organized the contest, everything seemed legitimate. The website was professional, the email came from a selected domain, and for us. "Maybe it's our turn," Emily said, her eyes shining with a light bulb. The resort, called Haven Sands, was located on an island paradise. "It's a chance of a lifetime," I said finally. So, we marked the data, arrange. We arrived at the island's airport after a smooth flight. When we disembarked, we were greeted by a gentle breeze and the distant sound of waves crashing on the beach. The local airport was small, almost quaint, and as we walked toward baggage claim we spotted a sign with our names written in fancy letters, Emily and John. "Wow, VIP treatment, Emile." Our driver, a middle-aged man with a warm smile, greeted us and helped us with our bags. "Welcome to paradise," he said. "Are you ready to relax and enjoy the best of the island?" The car we took to the resort was comfortable, and the road wound between breathtaking mountains and beaches. Everything seemed perfect. The lush green of the trees, the vibrant blue of the sea, it was as if we were in a postcard. During the trip, our driver tells us about the history of the island, highlighting the tourist attractions and natural wonders that we can explore. Emily, always curious, asked questions about every detail, already enchanted by the place. After about 40 minutes on the road, we began to approach a more isolated area of the island. The resort, finally visible, was imposing and elegant, with modern architecture that blended perfectly into the surrounding landscape. The main entrance was adorned with tall palm trees and flowers, bringing an air of tranquility. "Here we are," said the driver. "Welcome to Haven Sands," said one of them. "We have everything prepared for your stay. I hope you make the most of it." We entered the main lobby, where we were greeted with tropical drinks and traditional flower lays. The reception was cozy, with decor that combined soft tones of white and blue, creating an instant sense of calm. The view from the lobby looked directly to the ocean. After a brief check-in, we headed to our suite. The room was even more impressive than we had imagined. The high ceiling, huge glass windows that opened onto a balcony overlooking the sea, and minimalist decor created a perfect ambience. "This is surreal," Emily murmured, and I agreed. "Definitely a notch above what we're used to," atmospheric, laughing. It was like a fairy tale. The first few days were exactly as we had imagined. Breakfast by the sea, themed lunch and a romantic dinner. On the second night, we were having dinner at the resort's restaurant under a bamboo pergola lit by small lights. This feels like a dream, Emmy. I never imagined we would have an opportunity like this. I agree. Everything really seemed too perfect to be true. And in the back of my mind, a small warning voice whispered. Something about the way everything was going so smoothly started to bother me. It wasn't natural. Good things don't happen like that, just like that. But I pushed that thought away. After all, I had to enjoy that unique moment. On the third day, however, a few little things started to bother me. In the morning, we went for a walk along the beach and noticed that there weren't many other guests there. It's strange, don't you think? I commented to Emily as we walked along the sand. This place is so big and beautiful, but it feels like we're the only ones enjoying it. Maybe the others are on excursions or touring the island, Emily suggested, trying to keep the moment light. Or maybe this is actually a very exclusive resort. But as the day went on, doubts continued to grow in my mind. When we returned to our room to rest, we saw that the staff had left fresh flowers on the balcony table, as they did every day. But there was something different. One of them had a brown stain on the specs, something I didn't expect to see in such a perfect place. Maybe it's just an insignificant detail, I thought, trying not to worry about it. That same night, while we were having dinner at the resort's restaurant, I noticed that a waitress was subtly watching us. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away, as if she was uncomfortable. Did you notice that? I asked Emily, who was distracted, enjoying the food that was being served. What? That waitress, she was watching us strangely. Emily shrugged. John, you're just tired. This place is wonderful, relax. She asked, and for a moment, I tried to follow her advice. The next day, while we were by the pool, something unusual happened. A middle-aged woman, who had been sitting a few hours away, dropped a small envelope as she got up to leave. Emily, always being attentive and polite. Sorry you dropped that. Emily called. The woman turned quickly, looking surprised for a second, before reaching out to take the envelope. Thank you, she said, her voice shaky. Before Emily could, sorry, I have to go. She almost ran away, leaving Emily and I exchanging confused looks. That's weird, Emily muttered, still looking in the woman's direction. Very strange, I agree, feeling uncomfortable. At night, while Emily was in the shower, I decided to walk a little. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't sure what. The environment, which had previously been so welcoming and perfect, now seemed cold and calculating. I'm just imagining things, I thought, trying to convince myself that nothing was happening. However, that same night, things started to look different. When we returned to our room, late at night, we discovered that the doors had been locked from the outside. Emily was perplexed. Like this? We don't lock it from the outside. I tried to open the door, but it was completely locked. Luckily, after a few minutes, an employee walked by the hallway and offered to unlock it. Sorry about that, he said. It happens sometimes. Does it happen sometimes? I looked suspicious. The next morning, when I woke up, I received an anonymous message under my bedroom door. The note simply said, "Leave while you can." I showed the note to Emily. John, what's going on? Why would someone send us this? Back in the room, we discussed what we should do next. If this is a real threat, we have to get out of here, said Emily. She paced, we can't just ignore this warning. And are we serious? I knew she was right, but there was another problem. How would we get out? The resort was isolated and we didn't have our own transportation. The only car we saw was the one we brought from the airport, and now it seemed impossible to get in touch with the driver. Furthermore, our cell phones had no signal since we arrived. We need a plan, I said, trying to climb rationally. That night, I walked around the resort alone, trying to clear my thoughts. As I walked through the gardens, I saw a group of employees chatting near the back area of the resort, where there appeared to be a restricted access area. They spoke in low voices, but I could hear some stray words that alarmed me. Organization, control, ready for surgery. Frozen with fear, I hid in the shadows, trying to process what I had just heard. Surgery? My heart started beating. Emily and I want the next ones? The next morning we woke up with a sense of urgency. Emily suggested that we try to speak directly. Mark and Jennifer, and also won a trip through an online contest. When we started talking, "We're stuck here," Mark said, his voice low and strained. I'm sure there is something very wrong with this place. I don't know what's going on, but we need to get out of here." The despair in. That night, while Emily and I didn't. Suddenly the footsteps. "This isn't safe," I whispered to Emily, my voice hoarse with tension. I think they know we're suspicious." Emily nodded, eyes wide with fear. We need to leave now. We will try to leave discreetly." It was then that we heard a soft knock on the wall next to the room. Mark and Jennifer weren't, they're coming for us. We need to leave now. We try to stay calm, but adrenaline runs through our veins. We started looking for an alternative way out. The bedroom window looked out onto the garden, but it was too high for us to jump without hurting ourselves. "We have to take a chance," I said, looking at Emily. "It's either that or wait for them to come, to come to us." Emily was the first to leave, followed by me. We were now in the garden, hiding. As we crawled through the vegetation, trying to avoid the security cameras we had noticed earlier, we spotted a small cabin in the far corner of the property. It looked like a staff house or some kind of maintenance area. "Maybe we hope to find something useful there," I suggested. "Or for me, or at least a place to hide until we figure out what to do." We headed toward the hut cautiously, our breaths steady. "That's a list," Emily whispers, my heart sinking. They are chosen as people. We're next." The air inside my cabin was thick, and I could feel the sweat running down my forehead as I looked at the photos on the bulletin board. Each face seemed to be chosen meticulously, as if this organization was hunting its victims with surgical results. Men, women, young and seemingly healthy, they didn't want just anyone, they wanted those with the perfect bodies. I could see the horror in Emily's eyes as she stared at the photos, the fear that we thought we were the. "This is real, Sue." Emily, her voice is tremendous. "They're cherry-picking who gets taken, they're watching us the whole time." I looked at the notes next to the photos, numbers and acronyms that didn't make much sense to me, but were definitely used to classify the victims. "We can't stay here," I said, trying to fly more calmly. "We need to get off this island as quickly as possible." Emily nodded, but the tension on her face was evident. Fear was taking over, and rightly so. Our cell phones had no signal, we had no transportation, and now we knew that the resort was, in fact, a front for something monstrous. Before we get out of the taxi. As soon as we left the cabin, we came back to ourselves. "We need to get to the dock area," I said, trying. "If we can find a boat or something, maybe we can escape by water." Emily nodded, even though she was visible to me. "Do you think we can get out of this?" she told me, her voice fragile. I looked at her, trying to hide my own fear. "We're going to get out of here, Emily. I promise." We stealthily headed towards the pier. "Oh, resort." But we knew it wouldn't be easy. "We have to wait for the right time," and Emily said, "If we're seen now, we're finished." We stayed there, crouched, watching the movement. Before we get out of the taxi. As soon as we left the cabin, we came back to ourselves. "We need to get to the dock area," I said, trying. "If we can find a boat or something, maybe we can escape by water." Emily nodded, even though she was visible to me. "Do you think we can get out of this?" she told me, her voice fragile. I looked at her, trying to hide my own fear. "We're going to get out of here, Emily. I promise." We stealthily headed towards the pier. "Oh, resort." But we knew it wouldn't be easy. "We have to wait for the right time," and Emily said, "If we're seen now, we're finished." We stayed there, crouched, watching the movement. "Where are we going?" Emily said, still shaking. "We just need to get to the mainland," I replied. But before I could come up with a better plan, the boat's engine began to sputter. No, not now. The silence that fell was terrifying. We were adrift, in a dark sea with no sign of rescue. Emily looked at me. "What do we do now?" Before I could respond, a noise. "They found us," I whispered. "We are trapped." The boat coming towards us seems immense, its lights cutting through the darkness of the ocean like a shining blade. The sound of the engine was guaranteed, and we knew we had been found. Emily grabbed my arm tightly, her eyes. "What are we going to do, John?" she said, her voice barely heard. I didn't have an answer. There was nowhere else to run. The engine of our small boat had failed, and we were now completely at the mercy of the organization chasing us. They wanted us back. And worse, they wanted our bodies, or rather, the organs inside them. The only thing going through my head was that I needed to protect Emily, no matter what. The larger boat stopped a short distance from us, and I could see figures moving along the edge, shadows illuminated by the bright headlights. They were preparing to capture us. I feel the bitter taste of despair. Emily began to cry silently, and I knew. Then, before I could report what was happening, I heard a familiar voice coming from the larger boat. "John? Emily?" It was Mark, the man we had found. "Quickly, come up. We're here to help." For a brief moment, hope shone. Mark and Jennifer managed to escape as well. But "Come on, now. We don't have much time," he said, and I knew I couldn't. Mark and Jennifer, who were so exhausted. And then, what happened? "How did you rescue this boat?" I wanted. Mark shook his head, still nervous. When we realized what was happening at the resort, we found one of the employees interested in helping us. He gave us the keys to this boat and told us to run away. But they are still after us. This boat will give us time, but we can't stop. We need to get to the mainland. The sound of voices behind us alerted me. I looked back and saw that the resort staff, or whoever they were on their own boat not far away. They had weapons and were approaching quickly. Fast. Specific Mark, assuming Emily clung to me, her eyes widened. The lights of the enemy boat flashed behind us, and shots even echoed in the air. Bullets ricocheted off the water around us, and the sound was terrifying. "Get down," I shouted to Emily and Jennifer, who crouched behind the little girl. "We have to keep going," said Mark. "If we can get through that line of reefs, we can lose them." The boat was rocking violently in the waves, and the sound of gunfire continued, but by some miracle, none of us were hit. Bullets whizzed around us, but Mark was determining. Finally, we saw the line of reefs ahead. It was our only chance. "We're going to make it," I murmured to Emily, who looked at me. The boat passed the reefs, maneuvering expertly between the rocks and the crashing waves. The enemy boat tried to follow us, but in a risky move, they missed the maneuver and hit the rocks. The sound of the questions was deafening, and we saw the wreckage of the boat begin to sink into the dark waters. "We got it," said Mark. "We'll outrun them." But the breakup was brief. Even though we escaped. Finally, after hours of sailing, the outline of the coast appeared on the horizon. We were exhausted, bruised, and traumatized, but still alive. When we finally reached the beach, we all fell to our knees, thankful to be on dry land again. The battle was tough, but we survived. Emily turned to me, still crying from the breakdown. "I can't believe we're alive, John," she. I hugged her tightly, feeling the same. We did it. Let's put this behind us. However, we knew that this story didn't really have an end. After weeks of investigation, local authorities revealed that Haven Sands Resort was just the tip of the iceberg. Go. Me and Emily tried. "Do you think it will leave us one day?" Emily questioned. I look her in the eyes, holding her hand. "I don't know. But I know we'll never be the same. All we can do now is move forward." Did you like this story? Do you have something incredible to share? If you or someone you know has had a hair-raising experience in traffic, whether as a driver or passenger, send your story. Who knows, it might appear in our next video. Send your report in the comments or by email, and let's explore the mysteries of the road together.